Kettlebell Drenga. Rating season is upon us. The battle for the title of North American Champion returns to the Twin Cities for the 2024 WKSF North American Championship. Pro Kettlebell has returned as a sponsor and added to the horde with $500 worth of gift cards ready to be claimed. Register today for your chance to fight for glory and claim your spoils. Registration is available now for $100 at TwinCitiesKettlebellClub.com. All competitors are registered for raffle prizes, and there is a $500 cash purse up for grabs for top competitors, sponsored by Living.Fit. We'll be back at the Athlete Lab in Little Canada, Minnesota on Saturday, September 28th, and accepting video submissions for online competitors. Go to TwinCitiesKettlebellClub.com to register today. Come, answer the call of battle. Join us. Fight for your clan. Fight for yourself. Claim your spoils and your glory. Sign up now, and may your name forever ring out in the Hall of Champions. Sign up today. TwinCitiesKettlebellClub.com. Welcome to the Platform Podcast, where we talk to coaches, athletes, experts, and real people to learn about their approaches to training, nutrition, mindset, and much more. I am your host, Jordan Kundi Wright, founder and head coach of the Twin Cities Kettlebell Club, and our mission is to become our best selves through sport. This episode is brought to you by Virus Athletic. To perform at your best, you need to equip yourself with the best gear. Problem is that only the top 5% of athletes have access to customized gear built for their body and their specialized activity. Fortunately for the rest of us, there is Virus, and they're not following suit. Their products are tested with the world's top athletes, but designed for you and your passion. With over 1,000 satisfied customers in 30 countries and over 6,000 five-star reviews, they know how to make apparel designed for you and the activities that you love. Get the Virus, get the best gear. So here's a simple process for you. Shop Virus, train with confidence, and elevate your performance. I also want to personally thank Virus for their support of the 2024 USA National Kettlebell Sport Team. They provided uniforms free of cost to our athletes who traveled to Rzeszów, Poland, and the people could not have said nicer things about the quality of the gear, how much they loved the style, the options that were provided, and working with Melanie and her team were fantastic. It was incredible. So thank you very much. And I was so inspired by Melanie's story that I had to bring her on the podcast and talk to her about Virus. And so she is my guest this week. We spent a lot of time going over her background, Virus's background, what their mission and vision is, the struggles that they experienced during COVID, like so many of us went through, as well as how they've overcome, their vision for the future, and a lot about their products and what they do. It was really just a great conversation, and I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys do as well. It was a super fun conversation for me. I am going to make sure that I put the link to the AKLU collection with Virus in the episode notes. There's a discount code for AKLU members, and I just can't give you a high enough recommendation for the quality of their gear. It is truly the best gear that you can get your hands on, especially their compression stuff. But I mean, all the stuff that they do, and you'll hear about why that is in this episode. So I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed recording it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and step onto the platform with Melanie Lin, CEO of Virus International. All right, welcome back to the Platform Podcast. I am very excited to welcome in my guest this week is Melanie Lin. She is the CEO of Virus International, which is a sports apparel brand that is catering to a broad range of high-performance athletes and making high-quality equipment accessible to all. Melanie, welcome in.
Thank you so much. It's awesome to be here. Really, really excited.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. I want to start with your origin story. Before we dive into virus, I actually want to know a little bit about you and kind of your background and how did you get into sports and what made you want to go down this path?
Yeah, that is a really loaded and funny question at the same time, because I would say for those who have known me in childhood, they would say I am far from what you would consider an athlete. So, I grew up very much like focused on my studies. My parents didn't put me in any sports. It was more so just get straight A's, which is exactly what I did, very stereotypical, but it's exactly what I did. But then it was funny, my dad was always an entrepreneur, and he had started Virus in 2014 when I was just graduating high school. So, a little bit of the origin in the sense of like I already knew that he was in apparel. Technically he's third and I'm fourth generation in my family to do textile and apparel. So all of this was in my blood and it was going to manifest somehow. But, growing up, I always wanted to carve my own path. I'd always been a self-starter because I was so academically focused. I was like, okay, I'm going to get into a really good school. I always knew I wanted to do business. Seeing both of my parents, they ran a factory growing up. My father owned his own sew shop, and he actually worked for Bob Hurley, Billabong, Quicksilver, all those brands, you name it. So Bob Hurley was one of his original mentors. So we were always in apparel. I grew up doing my homework in the factories when my parents would work late. I would run up and down these lines of sewing machines, jump in piles of fabric. That was how I grew up. But I never thought that that would be, the career or just kind of the sense of direction that I would take. I just always thought, wow, I saw my parents work hard for their own money. They were their own bosses. So I always knew business was the direction I wanted to go. So I studied business economics. And then pretty short after I graduated from university, I decided to pursue my MBA. And usually, you pursue your MBA like you've got at least what 5 to 10 years of experience. But for me, I went straight into entrepreneurship. So the second I graduated, I traveled abroad, lived actually in Asia for 2 months with my father, learning everything that he knew. So production, supply chain. I saw the factories. I've actually visited, Nike and Lululemon factories. I've also visited the famous Fabletics factory as well. It's crazy. But I was able to really open my eyes to what international business would be like. And so that kind of got me into, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur. But at this moment in time, I was like 18, 19. I still wasn't like, like I want to work with virus, or no, it was still just like, okay, now how can I take this knowledge and do my own thing?
Mm,
But I started my own company before virus. I actually joined virus. I started a health and wellness brand with my father. We made holistic wellness devices. So we actually went through the process of getting a patent. We went through the process of working with doctors. I learned all of that as well. So that was also, again, really amazing skills I needed to learn, that would help me eventually at Virus. But I started this company, and my father helped me do all the sourcing because logistics and supply chain is his thing. My thing is operations and strategy and everything else. And so I remember designing the website myself on napkins. Like I drew on printer 8x11 printer paper, and I said, this is going to be the homepage. This is going to be where the banner is, et cetera, et cetera. And then I gave it to a friend who owned his own production company, and he helped me create a website. So I was able to learn the basics of bootstrapping as an entrepreneur. All this to say though, what really was, I would say, the divine timing. I'm a very spiritual person. The divine timing of the universe really brought back, COVID had hit. The ex-CEO, who actually was not my father, it was someone else at the company, asked my dad to come back to help with the brand because the company was hurting just like everyone else when COVID was starting. And
yeah.
then my dad came back, basically, quote, out of retirement, because at this point he had also stepped away from virus, realized, shoot, virus needs help. And then he asked me, hey, you just graduated and you just got your MBA. Like, I know we've started this other company, but can you pause this and let's come back to virus? So now this is like 2019. I've now come into virus to just offer my help as a newly minted MBA graduate. But then I realized, wow, there's a lot of work to be done. And I was able to make an impact right away. And that's kind of how I started segue into then getting into virus. But it's hilarious because I wasn't an Olympic weightlifter at the time. I didn't do any sports. I was simply just one of those people at the gym just trying to survive.
Yeah.
Literally just trying to stay fit and survive. But then I picked up Olympic weightlifting just only 2 years ago myself because I
Oh,
wanted to put
nice.
myself, yeah, I wanted to put myself into the perspective of what it was like to be one of our athletes, but in general, in recognizing, right, the body can do so much, but the mind can do so much more. So I was like, okay, if I can deal with a lot of scary things in business, I can do some stuff with the barbell. So that's kind of where it all came together.
Nice. That is fantastic. So now, I mean, you touched on Oli weightlifting, and being this is the platform podcast, now I'm going to have to ask you a couple of Oli questions. So,
Yeah.
uh, what's your favorite lift?
Probably clean and jerk,
Yeah.
specifically the clean. I can clean all day long. I'm still working on my jerk, but I can clean all day long.
How about the snatch? How's the snatch treating you?
See that one, it's more of a I love it when I love it and I hate it when I hate it.
It's
I
a
have gone,
technical lift.
I exactly like I've only done one meet, and even though I live in Southern California, my gym's in Texas, so I did one meet at my home gym in Texas, and it was awesome. I was surrounded by my teammates, but I had to tell my coach, like I've forgotten how to snatch. Like literally 2 weeks leading up to the meet, I literally couldn't snatch even 60%. It was not even funny. And so
Oh
I was
no,
like,
you
can
got
we
the
please?
yips.
I got, yes, I don't know what happened, but just something wasn't right. Like I started bouncing the bar off my hip. And so, it's one of those things where when I'm really good at snatching, I love it. But unfortunately, it has been a strained relationship as of lately, to
Yeah,
say.
snatch is a fickle mistress in kettlebell sport and in Oli. Like, oh,
Mm,
it's especially challenging in Oli when you're going with a heavy load, because if you mess up snatch bad, like things can go bad, because you're taking
exactly.
that heavy weight way overhead, and trying to do it really fast and drop under it. That is a really challenging skill. I'm with you. The clean and jerk was always my jam. Snatch. Yeah, not I don't think I really had any good days on snatch. It's a really technical lift.
Yes, yes. And
So
I'm now
so you got to
dabbling.
give you got to give a shout out to your gym. So who's your home gym? Where's your coach?
Yes, I
Yeah,
will
who?
gladly plug them shamelessly. They're called Bear Barbell. They're based out of San Antonio, Texas. Yeah, and my coach, Brittany Rucker, is incredible, and I think it helped to, and I used to be at SoCal Weightlifting here in California, which also, by the way, an amazing gym, an amazing facility. I've just never had a female coach, and I think for me, that's what when the shift happened, that was probably the biggest shift. But overall, like I've been really blessed with just having amazing teammates. I go out to Texas as much as I can. And I used to think, oh, I could never do remote coaching. Like I need emotional support right there in front of me. But honestly, making myself take videos and watching my technique through, because I used to just not even want to record myself. It's hard for
Yeah.
me to be on camera as is. So then to record myself and watch myself doing a lift in a really bad way, it's like, okay, how can we get past the body dysmorphia and the self judgment and actually look at the technicality of, hey, this is what happened with your hips there. This is what happened, with your chest. And so it's been great. It's been great. So I'm significantly better, but by no means do I consider myself, an expert at all. It's more so just it's cool. I'm pushing the limits and bounds of what my body can do. And I never thought I'd be here before. My
Yeah.
body has also changed significantly. If you ask anybody in my life, they're like, I have muscle in places I've never thought I had muscle before. Like I finally had abs for once in my life. It's like, whoa, where did those come from? It all came from literally Olympic weightlifting. But I was always very diligent before on my fitness. I was a yoga instructor as well before, but I never had the physique that I have now. It's crazy. It's absolutely
Yeah, it's
wild.
almost like moving the heaviest load you can as explosively as possible builds a lot of muscle. Who
Yeah, right. And
who
it just
knew?
does stuff to your body. And I'm like, and it's funny, like I've also now I'm tracking my macros
Oh,
religiously,
nice.
like, and I've never used something like RP strength, for example, like never used software like that. It was always like my fitness pal or like let me just like loosely track calories. But no, this is very intentional. And I really heavily respect people who do this, on the Olympic or, national, international level where you have to be stringent with it because it's still just a hobby for me, but it still feels like a full-time job these days sometimes
I,
with the
I
work.
I love I love so much about what you just shared, because like for kudos to you for just being like, hey, I'm gonna go do something new, different, and scary, and that, like, Olympic weightlifting can be like, especially if you're going when you're going heavy, like I don't heavy's relative, right? Like, I don't
Yes.
that doesn't even mean a number, right? It just means when you're going for for a weight that you're like it's the fringe of your capability, like that takes a little bit of commitment to like say I'm gonna put this weight overhead, right? Because it doesn't always go well, right? And then like, the vulnerability of filming yourself and getting past some of the critique in your head is always really challenging. So, kudos to you. And like, I think it's especially cool. I especially love seeing women get into powerlifting and get into Olympic weightlifting and get into kettlebell sport because I love kind of this cultural moment that we're in right now where you're starting to see women embrace their power and it's starting to be more
Yes.
socially acceptable for women to be powerful, to be muscular, to be big. Like, coming out of the Olympics, seeing some of the women that did amazing things on the platform, seeing the women's rugby being huge for the US team. Like I love seeing that. I love having that example out there for women especially. I think it's such a cool cultural moment that we're kind of in right now.
Absolutely. And it's like I hate to admit it, but I will because I like to see where I've come from. I used to be one of those women that was afraid to lift weights because I didn't want to get bulky.
Yeah.
And it's like I think about, that past self talking and I'm like, but it's all again, it's perspective, right? As well. And what societal constructs tell you. But now I'm proud to say I'm thick with two C's. And that's great. Oh, it's literally the best thing ever. And like I still have friends now, I'm 28. I have friends who are, around my age and women, especially who've never touched a barbell. And they're like, it's because like I just don't want to get bulky. And then I'm just like, okay, let me walk you through this journey, because it's really just kind of reframing how you think about it. So
Yeah.
I also love what you just said. And even for people to when I tell people, what I do for work, and I don't like to outrightly say, I'm CEO. I like to say like I'm the firefighter at the company. I put out fires, which is what I do really. That's
I
more
mean,
of
that's
accurate
entrepreneurialism right
title.
there, right?
Yeah, it's more of an accurate title, but I would say, like I love being able to do it all, to say that I can, fight the fires of my business, but also fight the fires of my own mind. And that often comes from, the 2 to 3 hours a day that I'll lift because that mental fortitude needs to show up when you're putting heavy ass shit over your head. Otherwise, you'll fall.
It ain't going well.
You'll
Yeah.
die. Exactly.
I love
Exactly.
it.
So
That's why
it's
our mission is to become our best selves through sport, right? And like you nailed it. Like that's what it is like doing hard things like just becomes a habit. You're like, yeah, I'm capable of doing hard things and it carries over to all areas of your life. I love that so much. I'm curious, since you grew up in the factories with your dad and you grew up in the industry. I kind of had a similar experience, but I was in the supply chain and logistics side actually, but
Mhm.
not in manufacturing. But it made me want to be like, as growing up, I was like, I absolutely do not want to do this because I saw the grind, I saw how hard my dad worked and all of those things. And I still ended up in logistics for a period of time, and you kind of did the same thing. So did you have that same mindset? Is that why you were like, was it like I don't want to do this, or was it just like I want to carve my own path? Was it more the latter, or more like
Yeah.
I don't want to do what my dad my dad
Exactly. It was like I want to carve my own path, but also I was like, I don't know how I could work with family because not getting too deep into it, but of course, like I'm very open, so you're more than welcome to ask me. Like I've always had a very complicated relationship with my own family. I like to tell people I actually have more chosen family. Blood to me doesn't mean nearly as much as action. And for me, especially growing up with an entrepreneurial father who was never home, I didn't get the fatherly support. I didn't get that emotional support ever. And then you throw in an Asian tiger mom, again, truly true to the stereotype to a T. It was like, okay, also didn't get emotional support there. So I was always like, you know what? The path to my own happiness and freedom does not come from my own home. It has to come from me carving my own path, which is why I worked so hard in school, which is why the second I turned 15, I got a job. I also got applied for a driving permit. I recognized as a child, these are the foundational steps you need to take to what I thought was freedom. Um,
Mm,
and now, obviously as an adult, having adult money, having adult responsibility, freedom looks a lot different, right? But I definitely think for me, still true to my core, I want to carve my own path. And even though I decided to help my father continue his legacy, I'm also carving my own path on my own. Part of the challenges that I listed, about mental fortitude, a lot of that also comes with just working with your own family.
yeah.
I there has been so many messy bits behind the scenes that have occurred just purely because it wasn't just my dad. At one point, my sister was involved with the company as well. My own aunt, my dad's sister, they don't have a good relationship either. The second you start throwing family with business and money, it's a whole different
It
can of
gets
worms where
messy. Yeah.
yeah, I can't even begin to explain to people, like, the amount of trauma that I have incurred as an adult going through that stuff. But again, it all goes through the whole process of this is what makes you stronger, this is all character building. But it's like, I really thought I was done with the childhood trauma, and now this is different trauma on a different level. But again, I've learned so much, and that's why I like to tell people, nothing nobody can hurt me in business because my own family's done it. And I truly mean that sentence in the best way. I love my family and I love still working with my father. Like I am still 1000% in this with him. I actually am trying to work so that he can retire. He's turning 65 this year, but he's still living abroad now, still taking care of production. He's still producing new fabrics and new fabric technology for virus. And I just want him to retire so that way, he can live a good, peaceful life. I mean, I swear he's probably gonna still work until he's gone because that's just how he is. But
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's a fine balance, where I try
But
to
you
figure
want to
out
be able to retire him, it sounds like. You want to be
exactly,
able to give him
exactly.
that exit ramp if he wants to take it.
100%, 100%. As much as it's really tough working with him, it's like the filial piety is still strong. Like I want to do this, even though emotionally, I didn't grow up with that support. It's like I always had a roof over my head. I grew up with privilege, and it was always because my parents worked really hard. But I want to be able to give that back in some way. It's not the way I probably would do it with my own children, but it's a way I respect. And with that generation, right, they care more about leaving stuff behind for your children. And for me, I take that very heavily. I want to continue this business, but also do it my own way. And I
Yeah.
think that's where a lot of points of contention have come is, I have different ways of strategy, versus my dad who has done a certain thing a certain way for 40 years.
Yeah.
But the world is different now, right? Business is different now. The economy is different now, and those things tend to clash. And so I guess that's the part that I'm still working on, but it's bettered my communication a lot. And it's made me less afraid um to basically handle really hard conversations with people because again, the closest people are the ones that do the most damage to you, right? So it's happened many times already. you know?
I feel that more. I feel that more than I could tell you. My at one point, my father was a customer of mine when I was working in logistics, and there was a lot of challenges in that regard. When it was like, well, if you don't get this taken care of, I'm going to tell your boss. And I
Exactly,
was like,
exactly, and it
it's like,
just stings harder, it feels deeper just
yeah,
purely because they know how to get under your skin,
oh
but,
yeah, yeah,
I'm glad that you understand that, not many people do, but,
yeah. It
again,
is.
I love it, like, it's the duality of it, right? Like, I love that it's like you can trust somebody so much, but at the same time, those are the people, again, that have the biggest ability to hurt you in
Yeah.
that way, but
And
it's
vice versa,
part of
right? We know how to push their buttons too as kids that grew up watching them, like I watched my older brothers, I'm like, "Oh, I learned where all the buttons were. I
exactly.
learned where some of the landmines were." But yeah, that can be really tricky. What were kind of Virus's core values when it was founded, and now how has it kind of shifted, or has it shifted under your leadership now that you've kind of taken the reins? I know there's been some brand pivots that have happened a little bit, some of them by external factors, like you mentioned, COVID, right? And then,
Yep.
but I also know that some of it is self-directed. So tell us a little bit about the journey of the brand from, inheriting, being brought back in and inheriting a brand that your dad kind of started, but now somebody else was in there, and now you're being brought back in. He's being brought back in. Like, tell us a little bit about that brand journey.
No, that's a fabulous question. I think to answer this in like a three-part question, the first one being, what were the values before versus now? Honestly, I would say, especially when I came in, and not even as CEO, this is when I came in, 3 years ago, as somebody new trying to help, like coming in from a new perspective, right? Even though my father was in this for a lot longer than I have, I was still fresh pair of eyes.
Yeah.
And a lot of people on the team did not like that. Obviously, half of them thought it was nepotism, but I quickly showed them through actions that it wasn't just because I was a CEO's daughter. I was qualified to be there. I had a lot of impact. The problem was a lot of the team were set in their ways, right? groupthink biases, confirmation biases, you name it, all of it was present when I got to the company. But I definitely think overall the core values of what I saw in this brand, and I was in a sales position when I first came in, so I still am, I specialize in B2B, business to business, partnerships. All of our major deals and negotiations are handled by me and my partner. But it's like that's what I'm most passionate about is talking to people and understanding how not just our product, but the very essence of what virus is. How does that help your business, which helps our business, which helps our community, and it helps everyone. And I think for us, the core values of this brand, down to the very name, and this is something that I've been trying to also market more. I love explaining the name virus, why we're even called virus in the first place, especially with the pandemic. A lot of
Yeah.
people came for us and they thought, oh, we're just a company trying to capitalize off the pandemic, when that's absolutely not
That
true.
would be that would be a terrible marketing strategy.
Exactly, exactly. But we had to tell people and spin it like we're the only virus you want to have, like and we were founded in 2013, like this is nothing to do with corona, right? But the very word virus, it's meant to encapsulate, right? Our slogan is the passion, expressing the passion that defines you. It's meant to encapsulate, right? The mental and physical adversity that athletes in our sports continue to take on despite how hard it is, despite injuries, right? Despite people telling you, hey, this shit's hard, you're gonna fail, and still showing up to do it. And so I take one of our original athletes, his name's Cub Swanson, right? Famous icon of the UFC,
Yeah.
who's very famous for having um probably the most successful reconstructive face surgery in the industry. We worked with him right after a big fight where his face completely got ruined, and no brands wanted to work with him simply because of how he looked. Despite all of that, he still continued to fight. He still continued to show up. And one of our founders originally knew him and decided to connect with him and say, hey, we're a brand that's trying to really offer our own technology to people like you who put themselves in really hard environments, and you need clothing to support those environments. And so when you think of somebody like Cub Swanson, that spirit, what makes him, despite going through all that, despite that rejection, despite literally having your face like reconfigured to come back again to fight, what is that drives you? It's the virus. So that is exactly why we're named virus. We represent the passion, the essence, the motivation, that inherent ability to just keep showing up, even when all odds are against you. And this is also purposeful and why we support sports that tend to be more solo based: Olympic
Mm.
weightlifting, powerlifting, right? Jujitsu, right? You're not on a team. It's one
You
versus
versus
yourself.
you. Yeah.
Exactly.
I love it. I
Exactly.
love it.
So that's exactly, the essence of the brand, and we are still representing that today. I would like to just say that probably the core values all stem from this very essence of what this brand is. However, the manifestation is different. And I think that comes from different ways that we go about marketing ourselves, different athletes we work with, even down to the very messaging. Like I would say, again, not that this is a bad thing. This is just, of course, like me being in 2024 as a female speaking my voice, from 2010, the true inception of virus, upwards until maybe 2015 or 16. This was a very male dominated team.
Yeah.
Most of the co-founders were all men.
And you guys were really
Designers,
heavy in MMA, right? Like at the start, it
yes,
was mostly an MMA
motocross,
brand.
MMA, right? Especially
Yeah.
heavily masculine sports. We always made female products, but the problem was it was men designing products for women. And likewise,
How could
men,
that go badly?
that's what I'm saying, exactly. But also men, right? Marketing, and naturally you have the bias of making more masculine looking marketing. Just like we always had very sleek stuff, right? You look at our vintage virus banners and everything, it all looks really badass, but it's like there's no feminine touch. And I think, that was an essence that was pretty big that I wanted to change. So even when I came in, there were females on the team, but granted, not that many in the higher positions that were actually affecting and impacting the business. When I came in, I specifically hired my sales partner now, Anna, who helps me with everything. She's a female and she's a doctor. by trade, actually. She's a pharmacist by trade. And then I hired a few interns that happened to be women. So I didn't even think about, wow, I only have to hire women because it's uneven. But I just thought, wow, like we need diversity in this team. That was actually another point of pushback too when I decided to bring on Anna. Everyone on my team before, as part of the old crew, were like, why the hell are you hiring a doctor? She doesn't know anything about clothing. Why did you hire her? And it's like, okay, let me break it down. She may be a pharmacist by trade, but she's been a CrossFitter for 8 years. She has loved virus since it's come out, right? And because she's a pharmacist, while she knows how to sell the hell out of drugs, she's also a CrossFitter, and so therefore she knows how to sell the hell out of our stuff, right? And so now she's still with me as part of like the core new team of this new era of the company, and she still is a pharmacist, right? She still is a pharmacist and does her passion, but her other true passion is fitness, helping others, right? Part of her passion is also helping and improving the health and well-being of everybody, right? And that's how she was able to exhibit that passion. Once we met, and she literally joked to me the first time, was like, I like, my dream is to work for Virus. And I was like, no, seriously, do you want a job? Like, that's literally how that conversation went down. But again, I think that's just one pure example of, me trying to bring in major differences of diversity and inclusion, right? More gender parity. I'm proud to say now that we've gone from a shift, I would say, in our early years of the company, from having 70% male customers and 30% female, and now it's like 60-40. And it's still not perfect. It's never going to be perfect, but ideally, right, we want to get to a place where, women can proudly say, hey, like Virus thinks of the female form and the female body when designing clothing, right? We designed a lot of stuff that still didn't fit the female form before in a way that women wanted.
Yeah.
But again, you had primarily male dominant team making and producing and marketing the stuff. What did you expect to happen? So this was all stuff that took years to change. I would say even before I came in, I give credit to where it's due for the women that were here trying to make that change. But I really feel like until I came in, it was still really difficult, and I understand why. I faced a lot of challenges myself coming into Virus early on. It was also a matter of culture. I have been wanting to change the culture significantly. Before, it was a culture of, yes, like we're a team and we're all together, but therefore when stuff hits the fan, we all take responsibility together. But that's not the most efficient way of running a company. You have to be able to pinpoint where the mistakes happen. Somebody and one person has to be able to take responsibility. So that way it's going to be easy, right, to actually figure out how to prevent these things in the future. And so, again, while all the values, what I'm trying to say is all the values remain the same, it was just the execution of them, it was the organization, it was the accountability, but deep down, it was also just having people from more of a diverse background understand how we can better reach more people. And that's why, I don't think it's a bad thing, because obviously entrepreneurs and business people know the best way to differentiate yourself is to try to market to the niche as possible, and you dominate that niche. So a lot of people, to this day still don't know Virus. Just like a lot of people who aren't in CrossFit probably have never heard of Noble, and that's okay. Like, we're not trying to market to everybody, but what I had found was a fundamental problem is that Virus was too niche, in the sense of, like, we focused very hard on certain things and then just completely neglected others. And I think right now, my plan and my vision for the future is that we still want to cater to what we're good at. So for example, Olympic weightlifters love our singlets, so therefore we are best known for our singlets. Even powerlifters as well. I think in general, if you ask anyone, who do you go to for singlets, people say Virus. And that is an incredible honor and privilege to have that. But it wasn't easy getting there, right? But now it's more so, okay, if you love our brand, right, you'll also know people love our joggers, people
Yeah.
love our socks, like all these other bits that
All your stuff is awesome. Like I
exactly.
like
I
I like
appreciate that.
your
I
your
appreciate
stuff your
that.
stuff is great. And I do have a question,
Yeah.
like from a non-technical person in this
Yes.
field, right? Like, how do you
Yes.
guys go about, like, I work in a technical field, and I'm a product manager, and I deal a lot in innovation, but like, how do you guys go about innovating on new fabrics? Like, how do you cater to the broad the broad demands that you guys see from these very specific sports. Like there are different demands for an Olympic weightlifting singlet than there are, for someone that's doing, MMA, right? Like you're a rash guard, right? Like these are very different product demands. How do you guys go about, finding what your athletes need and then innovating new products to do that? Like what does that innovation loop kind of look like for you?
Yeah, and that all actually that does tie back to your previous question on the origins. So we had always started, and it was actually my father, he had always started the origins of producing and making this fabric with sports scientists involved. So we had always worked with people who are already in sport, and also think like physical therapists and whatnot, just people who are around mobility, movement, understanding the body, and down to the essence of it doesn't matter if you're a MMA fighter or an Olympic weightlifter or a motocross athlete, people overheat, people get too cold, people get too hot. Circulation, you need circulation to recover faster, right? You break down the human body down to the very essence of what are things that can affect your surface skin temperature or affect your body when a mass amount of clothing is covering that area of the body, and then you add compression to it. So I tell people, Virus is a technical we're actually a technology company. We're not a clothing company because we make the technology ourselves in our clothes. In the very same essence, we don't make leggings. We make compression pants. It's easy to say leggings, right?
Mm.
Because that's just the word synonymous in the market. But when people think leggings, they think Lululemon leggings. We do
Yeah,
not make Lululemon.
stretchy, wear them around the
Exactly.
house. They're
Soft
super
and exactly,
comfortable. Yeah,
exactly. And like our stuff is soft and comfortable, but it's compressive,
yeah,
right? And the whole point of that is because the technology will not work if it's literally not flush to your body.
yeah.
And also that compression allows for natural brace to help you, right, get that extra PR in that lift or
Contractile.
help you
Yeah.
correct, exactly, or help you like keep running that last extra kilometer when you literally have nothing in the tank anymore, right? And so all of these again principles, this is again all credit to my father. He had already taken all these principles, and him being third generation and fourth. So we're Taiwanese, and I'm not sure if people know this, but I like to tell people that the most advanced fabric technology in the entire planet actually comes from Taiwan. So Lululemon, Nike, Under Armour, a lot of their core design teams are actually based in Taiwan.
Made in Taiwan on a lot of
Exactly,
that stuff for a
exactly.
reason.
That's why even things like car chips, right? Like all of these things, Foxconn, right? Think about all the key technology companies on this planet. They all are in Taiwan for a reason.
Yeah.
So they just all manufacture in China because Taiwan's a small country and doesn't have land. We also manufacture in China, but we tell people that not to scare them because everyone thinks, oh, if it's made in China, it's cheap. It's not true, but China has land. It is cheaper to make things in China. That is true. But we design, and all of our fabric technology and our yarn comes from Taiwan. And so my father, being third generation, has had all this textile knowledge. Our family alone, we've got a lot of proprietary knowledge that's been passed down by generations. Combine that with key people he knows, how to make yarn, how to be aware of what's trending in terms of fabric technology that's out there, right? Because a lot of what we use right now, actually, let me even rephrase that. Even our technology back in, let's say, a 2013 pair of virus pants, we use nanotechnology in our yarn. So, for example, take Cool Jade, one of our fabrics.
Yeah.
Cool Jade, we have iterated that fabric over many years, right? Had made it more durable, lighter, more air wicking and odor wicking over the years. But the core essence, the yarn, right? When you think about the yarn that sews together a piece of fabric, that has stayed the same. And the way that that is done, again, like I've been to the labs, I've been to the factories that make it. They take recycled jade minerals from jewelry stores over there that would have just thrown away the pieces. We grind it into a powder, and then you melt this powder into the yarn, and that is then the yarn that is sewn into a pair of pants.
All
So
right.
the
Is that
technology
similar
will
to what you're
never
doing with like you've got bioceramic is another is
exactly
another
same
is
thing.
Same. Okay.
Exactly, exactly. Whereas all these other brands like, Under Armour, Lulu, they have technology as well, but typically their technology is usually a layer that's plastered on after the yarn originally has been sewn, which is
Mm,
why over time that
it
layer
wears off. Okay.
exactly.
That's
Whereas
why.
the
Okay.
virus
That's why
stays there.
my virus leggings from, or my virus compression shorts from, 7 years ago
Yep.
are still awesome.
And
And
they feel the
other
same,
ones
right?
have been thrown away. Okay.
Exactly. So that's kind of the overall essence of how each of our fabrics are made. And we've had new fabrics come along the way, like our eco fabric now,
Yeah.
made with it's like one shirt has 8 recycled water bottles. It's pretty cool. But again, same process. You mash that down into a powder and you infuse the powder into the yarn itself instead of just putting a layer on it to then
Mhm.
call it eco-friendly, right? It,
Yeah.
it may be, but it's going to wash off and it's going to pill and it's going to do all the things that you've seen clothing do, right? And so
Yeah.
I would say, based off of all the principles of what I've just said, my father then uses those things to then figure out, okay, how can we develop better and newer fabrics out there using the very principles that have supported us along the way?
Nice. Okay. So now I have a follow-up question. And as part of the innovation cycle, I know you guys work with your athletes too. So how do you incorporate athlete feedback or user feedback, right? Customer feedback to continue improving your products because they have evolved over the years. As somebody that has bought virus products for many years, like I can say your products have evolved. They've always been awesome, but they continue to get better. So how do you guys incorporate client feedback
Yeah.
into your product cycle?
Yeah, I think from a production and business standpoint, it's because we're small enough. Like I would still consider us, even though we're a global brand, we're in every continent pretty much. But we're a small company. So right now, especially after we had come back from bankruptcy and we had paused for a bit, our team downsized significantly. So globally, we're probably less than 10 people right now. But I would say because of our size, we're able to move fast. If I say, hey, Russell, it's my dad. Hey Russell, like there's been a lot of feedback that the seam on one of these pants is getting in the way of the barbell or it's getting caught, or we had a batch of joggers, which if you're a loyal virus fan and you probably had this pair of joggers happen where the taping on one of the zippers on the side
I
just
don't wear
came off.
joggers because I got too big of calves for joggers.
Yeah.
That's a
But
personal
yeah, right,
thing.
right, right. Which again, thank you for not blaming us for that because we've also gotten blamed for that. But it's like that's an example, right? Where like stuff happens. But essentially we try to take every bit of feedback and we try to iterate it and incorporate it into our production cycle as fast as possible. And because we are not making the scale of which, Lululemon is making or like a Nike or Under Armour is making, even though we still design a year ahead, that is still true because,
It
clothing brands have to
Yeah, it
follow
takes
that.
time.
That is
Yeah.
exactly. We still can say, "Hey factory," because we have our own factory. We could say, "Hey, let's try to fix this at just like next month's run," which obviously won't come out for another 60 days. That's why there's still a delay. But you go to an Under Armour, they'll probably tell you, "Oh, we probably can't fix this for like a year at least
Yeah.
because we've got thousands and thousands, already made that way. You can't change scale overnight just like
Yeah.
that." So I would say that's probably the biggest way we can iterate. But on the second hand, coming down to the micro level with athletes, first, most, if not all of us, our own employees here at Virus participate in a sport that we market to. Half of us are Olympic weightlifters. Um, our CMO went to the CrossFit Games. He's a CrossFitter.
Nice.
Um, my dad, he's an avid, he's like actually he's very humble about this, but he's a big golfer. So now he's developed some of the best polos that are out on the market. Like people love our Virus polos, which again, it's not something you would
I
think.
don't have one of those.
Yeah, I'll have to
I
get
need to
you one.
get
I'll
one
have
of
to get you one.
those.
Exactly, exactly. But just as an example, like our very core team, all of us participate in some type of sport that we market in. One of our original co-founders who's no longer with us, he used to be a stand-up paddleboarder and outrigger canoeer. So that's how we got integrated into that market as well. So it's all very intentional. It's not like when I hire people to our team, I say, hey, you have to be a participant in one of these sports, but naturally the culture And what we're building here naturally attracts people who have dedicated themselves to some type of craft. So
It's alignment to the mission and the vision, right? Like
exactly,
you
exactly,
self-select, people self-select to be part of the crew because
exactly,
they align with
exactly.
what you're going after.
Yep, all by accident. Well, not even by accident, but it was more like by aligning our intentions on the inside, we have somehow attracted people to us that have now, again, all aligned with exactly what we're trying to do. So, besides that, we also have worked with so many athletes over the breadth of years that we've been in business. We've worked with Olympians, right? Many famous Olympians, but we've also worked with, again, down to like a new high schooler who's like now like the best Olympic weightlifter at his high school, and he's going to be the future generation, right? And I think for us, we care more about listening to all the feedback all these people have told us over the years and being able to integrate that into what I was saying before, having a smaller supply system, a smaller supply chain, and being able to pass that message much faster, right? Than having to kind of wait and jump through these hoops to get there.
Yeah.
Still not a perfect system, but I definitely think that's why you can feel the changes much faster, right? Because if you think about it, we're still a young company. We're not more than 15 years old, but for a company who's 15 to have evolved so much, and gone through so much change, especially if you've been with us from the beginning, and I'm sure there's people listening to us right now who have been here since the beginning. Like you'll see, right?
Oh
You
yeah.
you can
When I
just
when I told
yeah,
people that you guys were coming back to
yeah,
US, like there was the period, the hiatus where you weren't distributing in the US.
yep,
I told people, in the kettlebell sport world that you guys were coming back, and they're big Oli lifters, and they were like, "Can I get a singlet? Can you?"
yeah,
And
yeah,
when we had the early access, when we had early access to the US launch site,
yep,
I sent it to one of my buddies who's a big Oli lifter so that he could order
yes, yep.
a singlet because
I
he
appreciate that.
was so excited to hear that you guys were coming back. He was like, "Oh my God, I can get a new virus singlet." Like it was like he was that excited about it because you guys had been out of pocket for a few years. What I don't want to dwell on the challenges of COVID, but I feel like it's a big part of your kind of your relaunch in the US, so what were some of the big changes that happened because of COVID? I mean, being an international supply chain, I can only imagine how much you felt the impact of that. So tell me
Yeah,
a little bit about that as much as you're
absolutely.
comfortable, revisiting.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, and I'm all for transparency, and that's part of, again, another new facet of leadership that I want to also bring to the table, right? A lot of people didn't know who the CEO before a virus was. Actually, period, didn't even know who were the faces behind virus. And that was something that my team now wanted to change. I just told you, like, 30 minutes ago, like I'm very uncomfortable on camera. I still am, but I can talk. I'm really great at public speaking, but I don't like being on camera.
I've got a
But
face for podcasting, I tell you.
right? But you know what? It was such a big pivotal shift to be like, but you know what? Like people have to associate a name and a face to virus. And if I'm going to take that responsibility, it's got to be me. Right. And like, I have no problem doing it. Do I like it? Not all the time, but I understand the value for it. And so, again, what I find now, talking through the challenges and being fully transparent, right? COVID was actually just the true start, but it wasn't really the worst of the worst. COVID just happened to start the catalyst of all of these problems that were a domino effect with virus and what had occurred inside the company. And to say it in the most succinct way, when COVID happened, right? Supply chain was affected. All of our stuff was stuck in the port on the boats. This happened to everybody. So
Yeah,
therefore, our factory was charging us for stuff that normally we'd be able to sell and use that money to pay them back right away. The
yeah,
problem was all of our stuff was not a month late, not 2 months late. It was 6 to 8 months, upwards to a year late.
yeah. So
And
now you have
also,
cash flow problems.
exactly, cash flow problems. And not only that, not just us, but I've spoken to other CEOs of other brands before, in apparel and in fitness, and everyone had an amazing year in 2018. There was something about 2018 where it was like, damn, we have to make so much because 2019, 2020 is going to be the best year for sales. So everybody overprojected.
Yeah.
Thus, everybody made way more than they had to make. And now, guess what? Nobody anticipated the pandemic. All this stuff is stuck on the boat. And now we've just incurred a way higher bill than we normally have, and no one prepared for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely no one.
And what small business has that level of cash reserve to be able to
No,
weather 9 months of cash flow
correct.
restriction, right? Like that's not
Exactly.
something you forecast for.
Exactly, exactly. And transparently to everybody listening as well, and I'm proud to say this, that the reason why I also feel like virus is not well known is because all the money we have made, and yes, we've made really good money. All the money we have made has not gone into marketing spend. It has purely gone to our employees and gone back to R&D, research and development, to create new fabrics, to make better products, to just keep making better stuff for people. And that is exactly why we don't have the deep pockets to either save ourselves in a situation like this or market the shit out of ourselves and just buying customers in that way, because we don't believe it's genuine to us. Right. If we had the excess money, that would be amazing, right? But we don't. All of that money goes back to how do we better our product and make sure that quality does not fall. But with COVID, none of that mattered when we couldn't even sell the stuff that was already shipping, right? And so that was just the start of it. Then when that already led to cash flow problems, it's funny how we're coming full circle. I had alluded to before how my dad was being brought out of retirement to come back to quote save the company. That's exactly what happened. Our ex-CEO could not handle the finances anymore, did not project for this. Money started bleeding out the door. We didn't know where it was going, why it was happening, and our goods weren't here. So then my dad came in and decided to do kind of like a mass, okay, I just need to come back and take the reins. And of course, that caused problems internally with employees, with culture. And then it started to just cascade effect into we started having to let go of people. And then guess what? People don't like to be let go. Therefore, it involves litigation. Anybody in the United States can sue for any reason, even though California is an at will state where you can fire anybody without any cause and have no repercussion. People can still sue you for that.
Yeah.
So transparently, we went through our own legal battles as well against our very own people.
Mm.
And we were being torn apart from the inside while the economy and while the pandemic was also tearing us apart from the outside. And that is exactly what was happening. And that is also why my dad decided to bring me in, knowing full well that I had my own path. I had already started this other business with him. I was full send on that, but times were really tough. And he was like, I don't know what to do. And I need you to come in and help me. So I was fully brought in to fight the biggest fire there was. And fast forward, COVID lasted in the peak, right? About 2 years. We were able to still survive somehow through those 2 years, but then what happened? Dispensable income started going down. People weren't spending money. A lot of our own customers and clients who had owned gyms and whatnot, they had to shut down, which is really unfortunate. The fitness industry as a whole took a hit.
Mhm.
So you're talking macro and microeconomic changes just completely screwing us up. And
Yeah.
all of that over 2 years led us to the fateful decision that had occurred last year where we had to declare Chapter 7 bankruptcy. And that is still not an easy sentence to say, especially when bankruptcy is akin to when people say like I've been divorced 3 times. It's like a very negative connotation, right? But in reality, bankruptcy was the only way for one, us to be able to cut off any other liabilities and not spending money on legal issues or settlements with disgruntled employees, right? Like it's the only way to save your money that you've got so that you can regroup and just hope that you can use that money to come back. And
So
that is
so for those of
exactly
us that
it.
don't have an MBA, i.e. me, um, will give me the Cliff's notes of the difference between like chapter 7 or chapter 11, and like how did you guys choose, like, because there are different types of bankruptcy you
Yes.
can file, and
Yes.
how did you
Correct.
make that decision? Because that is an incredibly challenging decision to wade through as well.
Yes, I mean, to even be able to even have to even bring to the table, "Hey, I think we need to declare bankruptcy," like, that even alone was really, really, really tough, really tough. But I would say once we realized, like, that is what was necessary, yes, there's 2 primary differences between Chapter 7 and 11. 11 is less aggressive in the sense that you're still allowed to operate, you're still allowed to keep your doors open, but still, declare bankruptcy, which means you don't have to honor some debts, but it takes double the time to actually get through. And actually, the statistics show 40%, because again, when you declare bankruptcy, your case gets assigned to a random judge that is appointed by the state. Just like any law case, right? It
Mhm.
could go either way depending on who your judge
Which
is.
judge you get, yeah.
Correct, correct. So there are still some inherent
Call that
biases in
judge
your
roulette
case.
for a reason.
Exactly, exactly. And so still, given that, right, there's also the statistic that our lawyer told us, about 40% of cases, 40%, it's pretty high,
Wow.
of cases that declare Chapter 11 end up
End up
going
in
to
chapter 7. Yeah.
so we were like, why are we gonna spend all this money, prolong this process, and still end up in the same result? However, chapter 7 is very detrimental. Why? Chapter 7 involves full absolute closure of your company. That means everyone effective immediately is fired. There are no assets left. There are no employees left. The company is just dead. And so that means that even though this whole entire time, me, my father, and a few other key individuals in this company still had the plan to bring virus back, once we said chapter 7 is the reality, none of us were getting a paycheck. Nobody was getting anything. I donated plasma myself for months to make ends meet. I had to ask my roommate, who's a physical therapist, to help cover rent some months because I didn't want to go get another job. I have my MBA. I could have been easily making 160K somewhere else, but I couldn't dedicate myself to another company, knowing full well that my dedication was to bringing virus back. And I don't have any shame in saying that because that's literally what I had to go through personally to be able to be here today to talk to you and tell you I'm glad I did it and I would do it all again.
Nice.
But chapter
Everyone loves a
7,
comeback story.
everyone loves a comeback story. But chapter 7 was like, that's it. You are dead. You are
Yeah.
actually dead.
All right.
Chapter 11 was like, we could live a little bit and have a lifeline, but you'll still die.
Yeah. So chapter 7 hits, you took a punch on the jaw, you're on your ass, you're on the mat, and you got to decide whether you're going to get up before the 10 count or not. How did you guys decide that you're going to get up and get back in the fight, and how did you get back in the fight?
Yeah, so the good thing is we're even though we were cash poor, we're inventory rich, right? So keep in mind all that stuff from the boats, right? We still have it. The very warehouse that I'm sitting in right now, there's at least $3 or $4 million worth of goods still here, right? And it was unfortunate that throughout the state of bankruptcy, all this stuff was sitting here.
Mm,
But technically it didn't belong to us yet because we had to surrender all the assets to the judge. But, we came up with a plan and we were like, okay, we don't know if this is going to work. We don't know how long this is going to work. All we know is that we need to tell people that we need to pause because it was true. We couldn't risk keeping our doors open and risk a shitty customer service experience. When people have regarded us, our products and our service so highly for so many years, we're like, the responsible thing is to shut down. And that's exactly what happened. So then in that time that we were shut down, it was a period of about 8 to 9 months. Me and a few other people, my dad, all of us worked diligently to come up with a plan to essentially get the funds to buy the company back. And that is exactly what we did. My father luckily had a lot of savings. Um, Very personally, very transparently, he has really incredible land and property in Taiwan that was supposed to be his retirement fund. He sold it all, and all that money came to bringing virus back.
okay. Now
So,
now we're coming full circle.
like,
Now
so you see,
I understand your deep-seated drive to want to help your dad retire because he kind of
he
gave up
gave
his
up his
he gave up his nest egg to bring this brand back to life. And so now you, as the leader of the company and also as his daughter, feel a sense of obligation to do everything you can to make it successful so that he can kind of recapture the retirement he sacrificed to keep the dream alive.
Exactly, exactly. And I know that all of us too were speaking to him and saying, "Hey, like you don't need to do this. There are loans, there are ways that we can get this money." And he was like, "No, like I cannot go back to incurring debt again. Like this is what I want to do with my money. Like let me do this." We all fought him on it. Like I told him, "This is financially irresponsible of you to give up your full entire retirement. This man doesn't have a 401k. Like that is the spirit of an entrepreneur. You literally reinvest everything you make back into your business. And my father has shown that and proven that to the core, which is why, despite going through these challenges, it's like I cannot walk away from this even more now. We spent so much time and effort to get back here. Um, this is just the beginning. Like this is literally just the beginning. And we have disgruntled ex-employees or people who always want to talk shit, right? Like people who will never understand, and that's fine. But we're here because we believe that we still have something to do for the world, and that is provide really good stuff for people who need it, right? Not just athletes, but in general, your grandma could use a pair of the compression pants to help with her circulation. Like this is much bigger than just helping fitness and sports. This is in general providing good technology in the form of apparel, and we literally wear clothes every day. Like this is a daily essential where if you are privileged enough to be able to have it, you should have the best things, right? Like you should have the best things in life. And I think that is why personally I'm so passionate about making sure that I stand above, all the judgment or stand above people trying to tear us down, because it's like, and there are people like that, and we've had to go through that. Some of them, again, like I told you, being my own blood, it doesn't matter when the mission here is bigger than all of us. It's bigger than myself. It's bigger than me showing up every day. Like I'm just part of it. Like I'm literally just part of the vehicle driving this bigger mission and this bigger legacy. And I want people to know that, and I think that is the biggest reason why I haven't shied away from saying that. We had also employees, some of my coworkers were like, should we say like we went through bankruptcy? Isn't that kind of like a taboo thing in business? I'm like, that's the thing. It's all about how you reframe it. It's a terrible situation. Like no one wants to say they went through bankruptcy. But
Yeah.
just because you say you've been bankrupt doesn't mean you're a corrupt company, doesn't mean you're a bad company. It's actually just another strategy, an exit strategy to get out of a really bad situation, and with the hope of coming back. Like not many companies that declare bankruptcy can come back. But a lot of individuals who have. Donald Trump has declared bankruptcy like how many times, right? Alone. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like
Bunch. Yeah.
many businesses, right? Like Subaru, Ford, like many big businesses have declared bankruptcy before. They've just come back.
Yeah.
But no one realizes it because they're so big, right? But again, that's why I'm so grateful, because for how small quote virus is, but the massive effect we've had on people. Like I have been to so many events recently, especially at weightlifting events, and people will literally run up to me and be like, I know you're the CEO because I've seen your videos, and you have no idea how sad I was when I was like, where the hell am I going to get a singlet? Where am I going to get my stuff? And I'm so happy you're back. And I literally remember like I could not stop crying, like especially the first few months of coming back, when I was just like overwhelmed with such joy and gratitude because people really cared about our absence.
Yeah.
And I was so afraid that people would be resentful. I was so afraid that people would just be like, well, screw them. Like they just left and they just dropped out of nowhere. No, it was the complete opposite. People were so, so sad, and people were so happy when we came back, and that just like refueled like the fire that was there, because to tell you the truth, so many times that fire almost died, especially when I was just sitting in my room not being able to pay rent, and I was having an existential crisis of like, I've really attached my own identity to my job because my job is more to me than a job.
Mm.
But when I saw the company in this condition that it was, I attached that to my own self as a failure. I was like, wow, the company's failing right now. I failed the company. And that was in itself like, a situation I had to deal with personally. So I have so much gratitude for being here, even though, again, I'm also going to be transparent. Like, it's still rough. Like, sales are still rough. We're still not making, the amount that we used to make before. But again, it's because all companies right now are going through the same thing. Like, the economy is just not doing well right now, and it's happening in all the countries we're operating in, not just the United States. It's hard. It's hard times right now. Inflation's a real thing. um Everything's so expensive. Our own costs to make things are more expensive, and therefore we've had to raise prices, right? And we try not to raise prices to a big extent, right? But we have to do what we got to do to keep the doors open, and we fought so hard to bring the doors back. Like, we got to keep them open, right?
Yeah.
But you know what, like, I'm so grateful. Like, I can still sit here, I can still be here in this building with the lights on, fulfilling orders myself, because I don't have enough money right now to hire a team to do it for me, and I'm totally fine with it. Like, I'm absolutely in gratitude that I could still fulfill at least 50 orders a day, because that's product going out.
Yeah.
Because that's people who are getting their hands on virus product. And I am proud to say that that is what still fuels my fire. And
I love it.
despite all of this, like, this is literally the best case scenario. Like, we're still here, and that's a win. Literally a win.
Love it. Yeah, your passion is evident, like your commitment is evident, and hearing a little bit more about the dynamics behind it, and how personal it is for you, like, with the family and all of the things, like it's an awesome comeback story, and I'm really appreciative and grateful for you to come on and share it. So I know we blocked an hour and we're up against an hour and you're very busy. So I know you got a lot to do, but I'm going to ask you one more. So
Yeah, please.
just what as now the new CEO and all of the challenges that you've come through, but with the passion that you're bringing to it now, what can we expect from Virus in the coming years? Like, what are you excited about? What is your vision for the future?
Yes, I would say expect just greater involvement in areas that you didn't see before. So specifically, we're trying to do more with technology. So other brands, especially in health and fitness, right, who are creating some of the best new technologies like wearable tech, right, or like having health data that's transparent to you, but using clothing as a vehicle to do that. One company I'm currently still working with, they're making biomedical gloves for post-stroke victims, and they want to use the bioceramic fabric in their gloves, right? Stuff like that, right? We want to be able to showcase that our technology helps athletes, but literally helps everybody in whatever area of the process you're on, whether you're a new athlete, you're a seasoned athlete, or you've just been severely injured, or you've gone through something really traumatic and your body needs recovery. Like, I'm really trying to emphasize to everybody via our current vision of this brand that we are literally there for you every step of the way. You don't have to be an Olympian to wear our stuff. You also don't have to be an Olympic weightlifter to wear our stuff. Anybody and everybody who has a human body can benefit from virus technology.
For all
And we can
athletes, act
still
accordingly.
exactly, exactly. And like, living's tough, like we all got to be athletic in some shape or form to survive this planet. It's a harsh place, right? So again, still keeping true to our core and the athletes and the sports we serve, but at the same time, again, not limiting ourselves to what our technology can do. So we're going to be trying to do more partnerships. Again, even with partnerships with, the Kettlebell Union has been amazing. Like, it's been able to get us and reach us to an even bigger community that we weren't able to showcase before, right? This is just one example of how we're doing it. And in general, just learning more about our roots. I think that is something as a personal feedback to what my team before didn't do is, we didn't go deep enough in explaining how the technology works. We didn't even go deep enough in even explaining where the name virus comes from. I think product education, brand education and awareness is going to be massive for us too. So all of this combined with the people we work with, right? I don't work and partner with people and brands that I don't fully back. I take the time to get to know the people behind a brand. I don't care how much money you can make us. I don't care how big you are. If I don't like you as a human being and I don't trust you, there's no deal, period. And so I want whoever virus associates with to reflect our ethos, the alignment, right? Everything that we've done, people who actually understands what it means to say that hard work really pays off instead of just, hey, we have all of this clout and we're going to ride this clout, right? That's also the same ethos that we use in whoever, whether it's an athlete or a company that we work with, same thing, right? The entitlement's not welcome here. Not the expectation is not welcome here. We want to see that grit. We want to see that adversity because that goes back to our roots of who we are as well. And literally what we've just gone through, to
Yeah.
be back here. So overall, that is what's coming. I don't want people to worry that, we're changing in a massive direction. If anything, I see this as we're taking what we're good at, but we're making it better and we're going to apply it in different ways that we've not done in the last 10 years of existence. And that is not an easy thing to carry, but luckily, me and my team, and I have people that I would take bullets for on my team. Like, these are the people that are going to help me do it. So, without anyone's support though, like, fans, like loyal customers, like none of it will be possible. So my last ending note is to just truly thank you for even caring about what we're doing in the future. Thank you all for being here and supporting us. I mean, without it, it wouldn't be possible, literally. So I'll leave it at that.
So passion, alignment, integrity, grit, all the things, right?
Whole
That's
thing.
what virus is all about. I love it. Thank you very much, Melanie, for coming on and sharing your story and being so transparent, and it's really wonderful. And again, from on behalf of the AKLU and on behalf of the kettlebell sport community, like I can't tell you how much the partnership meant for our athletes, and they were so excited about the quality of the gear, like you mentioned, not just like they'd have been happy just to have a sponsorship provided for them, but like everybody was so stoked about the quality of the gear, and the ladies especially appreciated the different options that they had for choices of short
Case
length
in
and
point.
size,
Case
like
in
right,
point.
like so. Yeah, so bringing it back, I can't thank you enough for your guys' support, and we'll put the link to the AKLU virus collection in the show notes, and there's a discount code. But you guys, I can't tell you enough. This is like the best quality lifting gear that you can get if you're stepping on a platform. This is the best quality lifting gear you can get, and it's also just nice to just wear around too. So go get you some virus athletic gear. But thank you again, Melanie. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you.